Holt Hickman was a guy that he was so positive. He always, the glass was half full. He made the impossible possible, and he was always looking for something that would better the community. Around town, we have so many generous benefactors in Fort Worth. I mean, our city is like no other as far as when it comes to people that are committed to making the town so wonderful. But Holt, I say that he had kind of quiet grace in his giving. You don't see a lot of his name around, but you feel the impact that he made, especially here in the Stockyards. It started with his introduction to Billy Bob's, and then his interest in the Stockyards grew. But I found out later that what drew him to the Stockyards is that he had a real connection when he would come here as a young boy with his father, because they would buy and sell livestock. And from that point, it was always part of his roots. And when he came back, he decided that he had to make sure that this was preserved for future generations. And I think that that's what endears him to me so much, because he realized the importance of preserving something that once it's gone forever. And that's just one of the reasons he's special to me.
Well, he was stability. He was the rock. Once he bought, I think Clayton Branch talked Lyda Hill into going it with him, and she bought half interest in everything that Canal Randolph had left. And so that was the horse and mule barns, the exchange building, and the Swift plant, and what's left of it, you know. And so he was there, and he had deep pockets, and he wasn't going to be flipping it. And Holt understood the custodial role, that you buy into the stockyards, and you don't just turn the maximum profit. You're a custodian, and yeah, and he was that way his whole life, and especially with the exchange building. He loved the exchange building. I think he bought it in his own name. He bought the rest of it with Lyda Hill, but he loved that exchange building.
Beautiful building.
Well, when I first met Holt Hickman, it was back in the middle to late 80s. I came to Fort Worth in early 1980 when we were building Billy Bob's, and I didn't know who he was. But when I got to meet him the first time was over in the Livestock Exchange building, and he was in some sort of meeting with some of my partners, Billy Bob Barnett and others, and he owned some property here in the Stockyards, and they were all, you know, thinking about the development of the Stockyards. And then as it went on, well, Billy Bob and I changed directions basically, or the bank changed directions for us. And anyhow, I got to see Holt a lot more. He came down. He was looking at the lay of the land, and of course Steve Murrin, who'd been a longtime friend of Holt's, talked him into coming down and looking at the Stockyards in a more of a redevelopment and investment type thing. And finally, as the clock turned and properties dropped and interest rates went up, Holt came in with Steve and Don Jury and Billy Minnick, and they all started there at Billy Bob's. And Holt kept acquiring property with other partnerships, and ended up owning what he and his family and others own today, which is now going through the redevelopment again of the Fort Worth Stockyards.